everybody. Welcome back to Cloud Wars Live. As you know, the digital revolution is in full swing. We're trying to get our hands and arms and brains around this thing and understand the impact it's having on our professional lives, our personal lives, maybe in that little bit of space that still exists between the personal and professional. We've got one of my favorite monthly guests on with us today, Bonnie Tinder, who is the founder and CEO of Raven Intel, which does sort of peer reviews of software projects, software applications, and the partners that help put those together, which is an incredibly hot field right now. Bonnie, welcome. It is always great to see you.
Likewise, Bob. Great to be here and excited to talk today.
Bonnie, and I have to say, seeing orchids in late March, it's always wonderful. So thank you for bringing that color and sense of winter's winding down into
That's
the
right.
show.
Yeah, well, we need some color in Chicago because if you look out the window too closely, it's very gray out there. So,
Uh,
yeah, happy for spring to come quickly.
Good, good, good. Bonnie, so first, again, I briefly mentioned a little bit about Raven Intel and what you do and the incredible resources you have on your site that help people understand which software vendors to pick, which partners to pick, and so forth. But
Mhm.
in the context of that, I thought that what you wanted to talk about today was fascinating in the area of change management. And Bonnie, no matter how much the business world changes and the cloud replaces on-premise stuff and so forth, there's still these things about, businesses have to get these things right, these software projects that help run the processes that run the company. And, the margin for error these days seems less. So I was really intrigued in your broad thoughts about change management that your perspectives on, in hindsight, that customers say, oh, that I wish I had spent more time, more effort, more focus on this. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Bonnie?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk to customers about their project, we always ask the question, what would you have done differently? Or, what were the lessons learned? And overwhelmingly, there is one thing that comes up time and time and time again, and that's the area of change management. And customers really regretting not spending enough time, not investing enough resources in the change management that needs to happen with the digital transformation. And I would say that is the thing, that is the most important aspect to consider when doing a digital transformation is how are we going to create agility for this with our with our stakeholders, whether those are employees or customers, to make sure this change is really progress as opposed to we're going to move systems or something like that. And the whole idea around a digital transformation is that you're not just moving the needle one or two clicks or employing a new technology because it's the cloud or something. I mean, you really want to, create progress in your business and really overwhelmingly change something. And if you don't have a good mechanism to communicate and deal with that change, it's not going to be very successful.
And Bonnie, can I ask, a little deeper on that? So when they say, if I could go back and do something differently, and I always think about that old song, if I could turn back the hands of time, but
Yes.
what would they have spent more? Was it cultural things they wanted to think about more, process things, technical things? What was the nature of what they'd like to go devote more time and energy to?
It's all of the above. And I think communication is a big deal, especially if you're dealing with a system that is going to impact your employees internally. And so many of these that we've seen fail are ones where the employees or the stakeholders didn't really understand the purpose behind the change, and they resisted it to the point of having to completely break from their old ways of doing things only at pretty much when they were told they had to. And so this idea of preparing and communicating why something is being done to those who are being impacted is probably the biggest thing. I would say also, if you're talking about putting in a new piece of technology, it's not just a lift and shift. I mean, sure, an implementation is you can cram in a new piece of technology very easily, but to truly rewire a process or rethink why you're doing something or why you've done something for the last 15 or 20 years is a lot more involved than just flipping a switch and creating some new logins for people. So it's the idea of how do we re-engineer our process before we start, turning on new technology.
Yeah, yeah, Bonnie. It's funny as you were describing that, and those sort of, oh, if I could do it over again, thoughts that customers have, which is very valuable again, I guess for Raven Intel clients, because they can come in, see, and learn from some of these experiences others have had. But I always it made me think of this T-shirt I saw, and I think it said that the beatings will continue until morale improves. If people don't understand what's going on, I think a lot of people are pretty smart. And they're going to, I've always heard that technology change is relatively simple compared to human behavior change. So if somebody doesn't know, but why are we doing this? I know you keep screaming, do this, but why? And what's the impact? Where are we headed? And a little bit of effort on that up front. I think you harness that, the enthusiasm, the capability of everybody. Gosh, that's got to make the chance of success skyrocket. But in the absence of it, right, people are going to dig in, get stubborn, and hunker down.
Right. And sometimes, it needs to be leadership that embraces that first. And sometimes, you can't create that internal momentum and receptivity without your stakeholders at the top also embracing the change. And so you need ambassadors, at every level within the organization to make that successful, not just a project team. It needs to be, the leadership as well. And that sometimes is missing.
So, Bonnie, one other fundamental question there about it that comes up, why are we doing it? But also, I think you touched on the notion of, do people understand change management? Like, what is it, and what is it that they need to be immersed in and given a chance to fully get the scope of this? So, how does that shake out, Bonnie?
Yeah. It's this term change management. We throw it around all the time in the software and project world, and it's really not well defined. But basically what that is, it's the approach that you take to dealing with a transition or organizational change or technology. As it relates to technology, that is going to be things like training, process reengineering, communication, and then iteration. So, these projects don't happen all at once. So it's not this idea of change management is not a point in time thing. It's something that is an ongoing sort of process to change. And so it's defined, in terms of really those big areas being training, communication, process change, and iteration. And, as we see that, as clients are thinking about what is my investment in a project, there's dollars associated with that, the area of quote unquote change management, because you need resources to do it effectively. A lot of times you need a third party to bring in expertise, and then you need the actual time, from your employees to get trained and things like that. So what's important to note about it, it's not just an idea, it's something that you need to budget for during a digital transformation. And, it's sort of a box that you need to sort of put around all of these things. And I will tell you it's not a cheap box. Sometimes it can be an expensive one. And that is the thing that if a client is, looking to sort of cut corners and have a project be cheaper, it's the first thing to go. It's like, oh, we can do that training, like later. We can do it, through more webinars than we can through focus groups or something like that. So it's one of those things that really gets shortchanged because it is a part of the budget process. And a lot of times, if you have a third party working with you, they're going to propose change management as a line item in the contract.
Yeah, and Bonnie, I think as you were, laying that out there, that really, powerful notion about how you have to think about this, how you have to budget for it, plan for it, and don't let it just be that thing that, endlessly gets cut and, whittled away till at the end, there's nothing left because, you'll reap what you sow there. I couldn't help thinking about, you said it's not a one-time thing. And I think on a larger scale, or maybe, in direct parallel with what you're describing, I think talking to a lot of, not the tech companies, but their customers, that they have this sense that digital transformation itself is, hey, this is a one-time thing, right? We were that sort of company, now we're this sort of company, we're all done. But it feels like that is an ongoing, there's no end goal to it. It's a constant matter of evolution and progression and innovation that moves into that. Is that a fair parallel to talk about how people should think of change management in these times?
For sure, for sure. And even the term change management, I mean, we're talking about it and I'm saying it's iterative, but ongoing. But I mean, the better term is change agility. And and especially in the world that we live in, where technology continues to change and evolve, it's this idea of having a culture within the organization that is change agile, or within the team that's responsible for the tech, is how can we change things so that we're agile in the future, so that in 5 years from now, and there's some new technology out there, that we are able to evolve along with things. So to your point, the transformation is a process and not an event.
Okay. Well, Bonnie, I know you've got coming up a great list of the 6 E's of operationalizing change. Want to get to those. But first, Bonnie, just want to offer a word from our sponsor, BMC. We all know what the A game is, right? It's the highest level of performance among athletes. And you can get to that level in business as well. BMC calls this the autonomous digital enterprise. It's when technology and people work in harmony, and that's how business reaches its A game. You can find out more at bmc.com/A game. So Bonnie, what are the 6 E's of operationalizing change?
Yeah, so I think there's 6 steps, and I wish I could claim these. These are not mine, and I actually heard them in a presentation given by Josh Bersin, so he gets the credit for these.
Okay.
But they are absolutely true in every digital transformation project. So step 1 is to envision. So envision the future. You need to know where you're going. You need to know what you want your end picture to look like before you can operationalize the change. Envision. Number 2 is evaluate your readiness. So as an organization, how receptive are people going to be to the change? And you're probably pretty easy, able to sort of have a gut sort of feel as to what that is. But also you can, you can do a poll. You can ask the stakeholders, what do you think about moving to this sort of, after picture? Is it something that you think would be really disruptive, or is it something that you'd really welcome? So that's 2, is evaluate the readiness. How many people do you have that you need to impact? How many people internally do you have that can actually make sure this happens? Number 3 is to elaborate and design. So step 3 is where you elaborate on this. This is once you have, actually gotten to the point where, hey, my project's approved, here's the blueprint, all of those type of things. This is where sort of the rubber meets the road in terms of, okay, so what are my key areas that need addressing. So I need to design a training program around this. I need to come up with key dates and milestones and communicate those. I need project teams and things like that to ensure that, all of these things are rolled out. So the step 3 is elaborate and design. Number 4 is empower and upskill. So this is towards now the back part of the project where you are able to find your key stakeholders and to roll out the training and sort of preparation for a change like this. But empowering your users, empowering the key stakeholders and functional leads so that they're a part of the program and that they feel like they're trained and able to handle it. Step 5. So step 4 was empower. Step 5, execute and communicate. So this is the step that everybody wants to rush into. So you can dance through steps 1 and 4 and get all the way to 5. This is sort of like the big one. This is the go live, so to speak, which we all know that there's a lot that goes before this, but execute and communicate. This is where all of that documentation and the emails and, this is where the go live actually happens. And making sure that your communication is clear, it's simple, it's easier to understand, and that it's timely. Those are sort of key areas in this 5th step. And then step 6, enhance and iterate. And then so step 6, Bob, as you mentioned before, where this is not a one-time deal, we keep on, coming back to this step. So enhance and iterate. Sometimes that means going back to step 3, 4, 5, 6 again, and then, and then iterating, in different parts of the project, or you have different phases of it. So you might go through all those steps again in phase 2. But this enhance and iterate is sort of the ongoing one where you say, okay, so here was our initial launch. Here are all the things that didn't happen like we wanted them to. Here's how we need to change these things for the future. And I read a great quote in preparing this is that, change in the beginning is hard. In the middle, it's really messy. And at the end, it's beautiful. So think of like the butterfly in the cocoon or whatever. So that messy middle is really this, it can happen even after go live. So when you go live, you're probably still in the middle of your transformation, because that adoption and the iteration to make it really what it needs to be for your organization is going to be this final step. Is how do we modify this to really match the after picture that we were looking at from the beginning? Or is our after picture something that could be so much better based on the feedback that we got and the lessons that we've learned along the way? So again, step 6, enhance, is, we will always want to enhance because that implies that there's something really good that just happened.
So Bonnie, what I heard was envision, evaluate, elaborate, empower, execute, enhance. And as you were rolling those 6 out, Bonnie, I was trying to think of a 7th one that sort of was celebrate, but with an E. I couldn't think of an E word that, would sort of kick off the big party at the end.
An exciting party. Provide excitement. Yeah. That's we'll have to think about that one.
Right. But also maybe the absence of that means you as you said, it's a process. So come back to the beginning. All right. Now that we're through this, let's envision what happened. How do you do it? Maybe go step. Bonnie, those are great. Really, really thoughtful there. And I think you said it was Josh Bersin who came up with these, but
sure was.
That is a great list. And I love the thought too that you said there about, it's hard, it's messy, and then it's beautiful. That the beautiful ending probably is what keeps people going, right? You got to believe through those hard and difficult and messy stages that, this is going to be something well worth it, but we've got to stick with it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the type of thing, and you mentioned in step 6 we want to celebrate. I mean, I would say I think you should celebrate on every step, because at the end of every step, you want your project to be a nice journey, a good journey, as much as it is, hitting a goal at the end. And I think that if you can look back on certain phases and really close them out, and celebrate the success along the way, I think that really, as much as, you know, it's sort of cliche to say it's going to make you love your implementation, and love the change that's happening, as opposed to looking at it like, oh my gosh, we limped to the finish line here. So
Yeah. Yeah. And Bonnie, I tell you, honest, as you went through the 6 E's, I was thinking as well of the wonderful book, highly influential book for me, was by Jim Collins, Good to Great. And he talks about the flywheel. And, once you get that click, it seems like it takes forever. And then the second click, and then the third, when people get on board, that it just starts to hum, and you can really feel everybody's energy into it, the commitment, and that this has gone beyond being, an idea, or in this case, a project, or this is how we work. And you get everybody behind it. And he said that flywheel starts humming, and it is, I think he said, a beautiful thing.
without a doubt. And I think that, just sort of building on that, as we're thinking about technology as well, once you have those foundations made, it's really then, your ability to sort of scale out that efficiency over time as well. So it's, initially people don't realize, the big benefits of technology rolling out. They see the benefits, like 6 or 12 months later, once that flywheel has had time to gain its momentum, and all of a sudden you build phases onto the project, everybody's adopted it, everybody's now sort of accepted things. That's really where, you shift the entire culture.
Okay. Okay. Well, Bonnie, this has been great. And I know we've talked some about Raven Intel, but could you tell people where they can go to take a look at what Raven Intel is doing right now?
Absolutely. So stop by our site, ravenintel.com. You'll be able to check out the partners who are, managing great projects and effectively helping customers with change management, as well as, we'd love to learn about your project if you've gone through one and have some insight to share with others. We would greatly value that feedback as well. ravenintel.com.
And Bonnie, I want to apologize. I know I have not correctly stated the name of your company a few times. The site is ravenintel.com, but the company's Raven Intelligence.
That's right. That's right. So intelligence, and think about all of the great insights that you're able to gain from that. So yes, thank you for that.
Well, Bonnie, thanks. It's been a while since we had a chance to chat. It's always fun. You have such a great insight into how the real world works, and just a beautiful way of pulling it all together. So thanks very much, as always. Always good to have you here on Cloud Wars Live.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me.
And folks, thanks to all of you for being with us here at Cloud Wars Live. Hope things are off to a great start here in 2022 for you as we move from winter into spring. I hope good things are blooming ahead for you as well. And we'll see you next time.